And as he moves in, you will see under the wraps there the W07. It's Mercedes Challenger for the 2016 season. As they prepare, Nico Rosberg popped out a moment ago, just trying to see over everyone's heads if he's still there, but he'll be out in a second with Lewis Hamilton to reveal their Challenger. We've seen some pictures of it online, Mike, but it's worth remembering that its predecessors won 32 of the last 38 Formula One races. Mercedes have really dominated this sport since the regulations changed and got to grips with these new hybrid engines. It won 16 of 19 races last year and took 18 pole positions. Just Singapore beat them last year in terms of taking that very front spot on the grid. The quickest car on the track for the last 2 years, and they're hoping this will be more of the same this year, looking for more of a challenge from Ferrari, who launched their car last week. But of course, when we get to 8 o'clock your time, 45 minutes time, we will see the cars on track for the first time and start to get an idea of just how much Ferrari have managed to make a step over the winter. But you'd have to say Mercedes have definitely had the best technical package for 2 campaigns now. Regulations stable, which mean just small tweaks, such as raising the sides of the cockpit. Look out for that on this Mercedes when they take the covers off, just by the driver's head. That's for safety reasons. And also we're going to keep a keen eye on the back of the cars this year, Mike, too, because there are some changes to the exhaust and what's known as the wastegate. But you'll be hearing a lot more of that over the next few days, Mike.
Rachel, Formula One always changes every season. Are we going to expect significant changes again this year?
No, Mike, the regulations are stable, as they call them at the moment. So in terms of big changes, we were looking for 2017 for those big changes to come in, but the team still can't decide on those. So actually we may have these regulations again next year. We're waiting to find out exactly what's going to happen with the sport, because they all need to agree and come up with a plan for the future. As you see, Nico Rosberg, and Lewis Hamilton popped his head out a moment ago with his beanie hat on. It's quite chilly this morning, but it's going to get up to about 15 or 16 degrees by the middle of the day. But yes, the changes for this year, just to really, it's around the rear of the car as well. We need to have a look, because the exhausts, they've had to change them now, and there'll be more than one exhaust you'll see exit at the back. It's called a wastegate, but I'll let Ted Kravitz explain more of that later on today. So we're looking at the rears of the cars a lot for differences. They'll be a bit narrower at the back as well, a lot of them. McLaren was the narrowest car last year on track. Really tight package they had at the back of their car, and some of the other teams adopting that this year. But this is the car that everyone's been waiting to see in the flesh. We saw some pictures last night, and wondering whether or not the challenge will come from Ferrari this year, or maybe it's going to come from inside the team itself. Nico Rosberg there with his back to the car and his back to the cameras, but he really does have the pressure on him this year to try and win this World Championship from his teammate. Lewis has won the last 2. Nico was up there in 2014 but dropped away last year. Lewis won it in Texas before Nico bounced back and won the last 3 races of the season in style. Was that a resurgent Nico Rosberg as he holds his hand up and waves to the cameras, or was it Lewis backing off? That's what we're all waiting to see. Who's going to start this season ahead? And Nico smiling for the cameras, but very aware that he's got a massive job to do this season, Mike.
Rachel, I was reading an article by Bernie Ecclestone this morning saying that Formula One is the worst it's ever been and he wouldn't pay to watch it. You're a Formula One fan. How worried should we all be when the boss man is saying things like that?
Well, Bernie Ecclestone always likes to make headlines, Mike, and let's not forget, this is the first day, really, of the 2016 season. And as we look at the drivers here and they start to reveal this W07, have a good look at it, Mike. I'll talk to you about Bernie in just one moment, but as Lewis and his beanie hat and Nico take the covers off this car for this season, you'll see there aren't some major changes. I have Ted Kravitz nearby who will point some stuff out for us maybe in just one moment, but as you can see, holding there in the middle for the cameras to see the front of the car, and very keenly watched by members of other teams as well, have popped down to have a look at this Challenger, the car they all want to beat on track this season. But it's going to be a massive ask for them as they take those covers off in full. They'll pose for some more photos. You were talking about Bernie's comments, Mike, but he's drawn massive attention to the first day of the season, hasn't he? And he is the ringmaster, if you like, of the sport, and that's done exactly what he needed to do, is draw everyone's attention to Formula One this morning. It's At the moment, I think we have a period where one person is dominating, one team is dominating. We've seen it before with Sebastian Vettel in recent years with Red Bull, and Michael Schumacher, if you go back that far as well. And it's a period when people want to see challenges on track. No one wants to see the title won with 3 races still to go. And in that sense, he's saying that they need some more competitive sport. There are always reasons behind it. He wants to see some changes as well to the regulations, and he wants the teams to agree on it. So maybe that's a little bit more behind his comments, is that he's trying to encourage the teams. Come on, this is a fantastic sport, but right now we're making headlines not necessarily for the right reasons. Let's make them for the right reasons. Let's get together and agree on some regulations. But at the moment, the man in that photo, the picture you're seeing right now, won't be complaining. Lewis Lewis Hamilton, 3-time world champion, 2 back-to-back. He wants to make it 3 in a row this year. And the other man in that photograph, Toto Wolff in the middle. Andy Cowell on the far left of that photo, by the way, the man behind this engine, very much credited with a lot of this Mercedes success, and Paddy Lowe on the far right as well, who also makes sure that that engine and that car is the best performer on track. A very force to be reckoned with, that team, to be sure. But as some sponsors and corporate guests come and join them for some photographs, I'm going to grab Ted Kravitz just for 1 second and speak to him about this, because we've seen pictures of this Mercedes, Ted. We've seen pictures of most of the cars now. I think it's just Force India left to reveal their 2016 car today, and Sauber at the next test. What have you made of the W07?
Well, just before we talk technical, reading some body language into this, just about 5 seconds ago, it was the first time I've seen Lewis Hamilton smile in this little presentation. Nico Rosberg came out, was greeting everybody, just making himself comfortable, and then Lewis came out, and I don't know, I mean, you could say he's looked focused, you could say he's looked concentrated about the day ahead, but this is the first time we've got to see, you know, who are going to be the prime contenders for this year, of course, along with Ferrari. And I've got to say, Rosberg looks the more relaxed. We can't read much more into it than that, but Hamilton knows from where we left off in Formula One in 2015, he is up against it. We left Abu Dhabi, didn't we, with Nico Rosberg on a string of wins, with Lewis Hamilton nowhere near winning a race. So I think this is going to be a crucial day for Lewis Hamilton. He's going to need a few days for Lewis Hamilton. He's going to need to understand whether this car suits him in a way that last year's car at the end of the season did not.
How are you feeling? Did you have a long enough winter to recharge? A lot of us thought it was quite a long winter, but have you had enough time off?
Yeah, I've had a great time. Good time, good enough break. It's nice to be back, that's for sure.
What's your feeling? You've had a morning in the car so far. What's your feeling about this car?
It feels very much the same as last year's car, to be honest. There's a few little bits here and there, but otherwise it's generally the same. It's an evolution of last year's car, so I think that's a positive. And the fact that in the first day we've already done 60 laps, I think that's a real good. That's a very, very encouraging for us, because normally in the first day you always have problems here and there with the car stopping. So fingers crossed that will continue.
Do you still have that feeling you had at the end of 2015, though, where you weren't quite as happy as the car after the changes were made to the suspension? Is that feeling still there for you?
It's difficult really to say, to be honest. It all feels a bit new. I've not been in the car for ages, so I can't particularly remember what the feeling was back then. But it's when we start to push the car, start to get the car in the setup zone, which we have not done yet, is when perhaps we'll find out.
And you probably haven't seen any other lap times yet. I imagine you've been working hard on your own, but were you expecting the main challenge to come from Ferrari this year?
That was the talk from everyone, so yeah.
So Nico, you're watching from the sidelines today. Lewis is out in the car, but you have run the car at Silverstone, the shakedown. How was it?
My first impression of the car was very positive, yeah. I mean, firstly everything worked out well. There was no issues, no problems, it didn't break down. That's very important. And then feeling-wise, I could push it straight away. You know, I felt at home, which is natural in a way because the rules have stayed the same. So the car is just an evolution of last year, you know, and so it won't be all too different.
Isn't it, for your team, because you can only make smaller improvements, I guess, on what's already a very good car, whereas Ferrari have gone through some quite big differences this year, big improvements. Do you expect them to be the main challenge? Is that how it looks at the moment, do you think?
That is the case, you know, the people leading the way, us, we can only, we can develop and then we need to invent stuff, whereas others, they can invent and copy, you know, because they can learn from us. We're the benchmark, and we had certain things in the car which were better than everybody else, you know, and so it's easier to catch up in that sense. Nothing's easy, but there's at some point then it becomes difficult when you're leading the way. And Ferrari for sure looking strong already, you know, so definitely we're expecting them to be a big threat.
They're targeting the championship. There's no doubt Sebastian's going to be up there trying to win another one for himself as well. Do you welcome it being more of a three-way battle? Does it make your job easier, do you think? I mean, you're obviously going for the title too. Does it make it easier if there are three of you fighting rather than two?
It would be great if Ferrari is very, very close, as long as they're never in front of us.
In terms of your preparations for the season, is this, we know about the contract talks, that's going to rattle on, it always does throughout the season, but for you personally, do you think it's a make or break? Does it feel like a make or break season for you in Formula 1?
For me, every season is important, you know, and it's no different now than it has been, and I'm relishing the opportunity again to win lots of races.
Just finally coming off the back of the great finish you had to last season, you must be itching to get back in that car tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely trying to get ready to go again now. I had a great winter, also prepared myself well, so it will be a nice day tomorrow back in the car and to push on with making progress.
How do you define the challenge for Mercedes this year? Because you've got the likes of Ferrari making big steps, conceptual steps, but for Mercedes, in order to improve in every area, it must be really difficult.
Yeah, if the rules don't change, you cannot expect to reinvent the wheel new. And this year's car is more an evolution than a revolution. We are trying to develop in a solid way, improve in terms of lap times, build the organization, and that's what we have done.
Ferrari have targeted the championship. They've made no secret of that. Sebastian Vettel's going to be up there. How did Lewis and Nico race differently now that it is probable that Sebastian's going to be a big challenger? How do they approach things differently?
I think it's too early to speak about that. First of all, we are very happy that Ferrari looks to have a good car, and that's good. That could be a great battle between the teams, and then we just need to see how the season pans out. We've shown in the past that we are not big fans of team orders, and we are so far away of championship deciding decisions. So let's just get on. I can't wait for the flag to drop, and then those things are going to come much later.
I must ask you about the changes made at the end of last season. Lewis spoke about the fact the change to the suspension system didn't necessarily favour the way he was driving. I've asked him today if it feels the same. He said it feels the same as it did at the end of last year. Is there anything that's been done on that front, or is he likely to have to adapt again to this car?
We've changed many things on the car, and not only on aerodynamic bits which are visible, but also on mechanical parts. And the car changes from every year to the next, and it's about, on one hand, developing a car that suits the driver, and on the other side, the driver trying to, drive the car as good as possible. And this is the compromise we have to achieve. And I hope he's going to get on with the car well.
I'll just ask you one final question. Have you seen anything on any other car that you'd wish you'd put on your Mercedes this year?
Well, I'm not an engineer. If I would take those decisions, we would be at the back of the grid. There is some innovative bits I like on the McLaren and on the Ferrari, but this is just from a, let's say, visual standpoint. I don't know if they function.